Cool. So first of all, I want to say that it's so much more fun when you all ask tons of questions, want to find stuff out. And so by all means, just jump in anytime and ask a question in the chat. And let me get rolling. So let me just see what you all have done. So let me see if I can try to answer this myself. Let's see if my keyboard will work. Yes, it will. Look at that. Okay, so let's see. I think I'd say, oops. No, now my keyboard's fighting me. Okay, I think I can still win this battle. Nice, SK. I will be watching out. I'm going to lock my doors. Thank you so much for letting me know there's a Terminator loose. I appreciate that. And let's see, right, so lots of folks on the ChatGPT level, that totally makes sense, or Claude, or Gemini, Copilot, gotcha. Kathy, cool. Very nice that you've tried some of the tools. Kathy, maybe you can just shout out, and Kendall, what some of the tools, actually, some of you may have been in my classes, but maybe you can tell me which ones you are using, and the same with you, Ryan. And Nishita, very cool. Yeah, just type in the chat what some of the tools are that you're using for your research. And anyway, this is great. Everyone just keep typing away, and I'll follow the chat, but I'll keep this going too. And by the way, thank you again for SK for admitting to being a Terminator. I think if you really were, maybe you wouldn't admit it, but that's okay. Delighted to have you here nonetheless. So I just wanted to say first, I'm going to start with just a little bit of how 2 years ago, so if I think way back in 2020, early 2023, maybe 2022, how I was doing things versus how I'm doing things now, huge shift actually for us at Brilliant. And so anyway, I wanted to show you what that's like. And then I wanted to show you some of the things I would encourage you to learn. And oh, damn, there's another place. I'm sorry. I guess I shouldn't swear on this. At least we're having fun. I'm like, typos are killing me here. Okay. So I want to say, what are the skills I want you to learn because they're updated. And lastly, I just wanted to let you know I do teach a course on this. So let me just, I actually have done interviews with founders. I think I need to turn this up. I think we made it to 40. They might not all be public yet, but on YouTube, just to let you know, with these specialized tools for research, I've interviewed founders of these tools and then also tried them myself, tried to learn what was possible. Really, that was for our own company, but ultimately wound up being, and we wanted to see, is this any better than us on our own? So that's why we had our AI versus human study on our Brilliant Experience blog, and we've just tested a ton of tools as well. So we stay in contact with those founders, learn what cool new things they're doing. Yeah, virtual RF, Ask Rally, that's a great example. Okay, I'm glad you do use your own product. That's also helpful. And cool. So Colin, you're digging in there. Very nice. Okay, cool. So and actually we did do an interview here. I'll tell you what, I don't know if it's live yet. I've lost track. We actually did interview the folks at Ask Rally, and we try to interview pretty much everyone. We're neutral. We don't, we don't have any financial stake in any company, and that was the intention, so that you all can get, neutral information from us. And so this actually, just so you know, so if I went to youtube.com @Brilliant Experience, and if you go down here, you can see which interviews we've got available, and you can go check out. These are all where we talk about who the target audience is, let them show us some of the how the sort of ideal use of the tool, and also where they think this whole research thing with AI is going. So it's pretty interesting to hear from these founders because you all have to be a step ahead of us users of the tools. So okay, cool. So anyway, I wanted to let you know that was there. And let's keep going. And I want to show you some stuff too. So I'll try to keep this pretty quick. And oh yeah, Hua, I'm sorry, I'm not exactly sure how to say your name, but you're using N8N with RAG, and that's really cool. I wanted to, and actually Mind Studio is another one Tom is using. I saw a demo of Mind Studio. I haven't done as much with it, but I wanted to say that I've got one last cohort of my AI for customer research this calendar year. And so it's coming up. It's actually, you get a couple more days. We did want to start on American Veterans Day, so we're starting on Thursday the 13th. You still have time. And I wanted to say thanks to you all showing up here, that I also wanted to give you the chance to save a little money too. So you can just go ahead and screenshot that, and you can grab it. And I would love to have you join me in my Maven class. It actually was we started it in February, and it's been a top 100, which is very cool. And next year, I'm going to have a more, this is sort of think of this as showing you several of the latest tools for AI for research and giving you a feeling, and really letting you know I'm not necessarily a fanboy of all these things. What I try to do is expose you to the very latest tools, things you couldn't just get a free trial for, that because I interviewed these founders, they let us have access in our class to these tools. And so you can try things that really aren't really all publicly available. And I think it really opens your eyes to what's possible. And I want you all to be curious but skeptical with all of this. So I want you to think about what is possible and where these tools are right now, and make that decision, and where you feel like they are for your research program for yourself. But remember that these things are improving so fast that there could be really interesting ways these could get good enough for you to use in your research. Of course, we do a lot with that right now, so I need to show you. And here, I'll just click this to get to the punchline. Okay, so since 2022, we can move 85% faster. But so dramatic speed increase is cool. Like we actually do offer a thing we call accelerated insights. And rather than taking 7 weeks to do a project, we can do it now in basically 7 to 10 days. And but I just want to say there are other things here too. So you can see that by doing AI powered past reporting, that we were able to like look at hundreds of past interviews and you know, try to figure out what is left on the cutting room floor from all the past great work that was done at a company, and let's not reinvent the wheel, and let's find what's already there. When we first launch a study with a group, we try to bring in stakeholders and ask them, you know, what's your target goals? You know, what are some of your priorities? And also, who do you want us to, you know, interview to learn more if we're doing research? And so what we actually do is we spin up a synthetic user right in that meeting, which may not be the very, very best one, but really what happens when we ask it essentially the equivalent of the question the stakeholder has, often the stakeholder's response is, oh, wait. Actually, you know, that's not quite what I was looking for. I was really looking for an answer to this. And maybe that's not really the exact target audience we want. Maybe it's really this. And so regardless of the performance of the synthetic users, we've learned so much about the stakeholder's intent and maybe a little bit more refinement of who our target audience is. So you can see these are new tools that we can harness to get, you know, better results. And so I just wanted to say there are other things like AI moderation that we are doing routinely now with a very small, you know, we can count everyone on this hand in my company, but we're routinely doing global research for major corporations that are all the well-known ones you know. And so it's because we can put together these different tools into a really powerful formula, and we've tested them. We've tested them against doing it with our own human work, and we've tested them for sort of quality and performance. So we have a sense of when to harness them and when to really dig in as humans. And just to let you know, we reserve about, I don't know, it's about 40% of the time of us, if we were saying 10 days, we send 4 of those on analysis, on really digging into the synthesis, storytelling, stakeholder, storytelling, and so on, to make it a really persuasive result. So that's where we're using our time right now, and less proportionally on like setting up an interview guide and things like that. We can just go faster. Okay, let me show you how. So I just wanted to ask you all really quick, if you could do these things, you could do like global reach. And so you can now interview 300 people over a weekend with, you know, 6 languages, or you can bring your data to life using a synthetic user, or you can just go way faster. Just go ahead, like 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, what are you thinking you and your group need the most? So I know there's always a pause here. Okay, there we go. Cool. Cassandra, thank you. Okay, we got a bunch of give me all. Sophie, thank you. Global reach, interesting. And lots of folks are with sort of scale and global reach. I wanted to let you know that these are multilingual tools. Are they perfect? Do they capture the same nuance us humans would? No, but actually, thinking of myself, my Finnish and my Thai and my Brazilian Portuguese aren't what they could be. And so now I can at least capture some data from these audiences. So I think of it as a way to increase inclusivity. It's a way to have scale that's meaningful to stakeholders. And so it's a way, again, they may not be perfect tools, but they're helping you do things you couldn't do before. And that's kind of the concept. Will we be careful and cautious and thoughtful and consider ethics and safety and all these things, of course. But we do think that there's opportunities to expand what we were doing because of them. So yeah, so Colin, I totally agree with this, like internal systems that have things locked up. That's a really common thing. We actually get hired a lot just to first look at all your past data and just see what we can find. So that's a really good point. Okay, cool. Let me keep going. Let's see how we're doing. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to give you 4 slides and I want to show you some stuff. And so this is great. I love your comments here. If you have any questions along the way, I want to hear them. I actually thought, SK, you said you do deep research with Perplexity. I think that's been great. I actually try to use deep research on all these tools, and I think it's, sorry, I'm losing track. Oh, it's Hua that was using a tool called N8N, which is a sort of like, it's a workflow program, but you can also have AI agents within the workflow. And so the interesting thing there is you can have a workflow tool, say, here's what I want to do deep research on, spin it off with all the, you might have Gemini and you might have ChatGPT and Perplexity as an example, and then actually funnel in what did all 3 of those say. So there are really interesting ways you can kind of scale what you're doing with agentic stuff. So I wanted to say that historically I've said, oh man, another typo. Sorry, I don't mean to change these on the way, but I can't stand the typo anymore. Thank you for your humoring my perfectionist side. Okay, I wanted to say that I really do think prompt engineering is still really important, being able to really refine what you're asking for and even understand when should you do sort of chain of thought, like give it a little bit to do, get it to do it, have the next step, and sort of map that out yourself to get the best things from your LLMs, large language models. The other thing I think actually in Hua, you were touching on this with N8N. Other folks might have tried other tools, like actually sorry, I'm forgetting the name. There's Mind. It's okay. There's another one that someone mentioned that was actually pretty good. Anyway, it's okay. So the key, yes, thank you, Tom, for saving me, Mind Studio. And we get by with our friends. I think that these tools increasingly are going to be really important. So we'll have a component of that in our class in November here that's coming up. But I do actually want to give a full course dedicated to synthetic users and agentic things. So that'll be coming up in 2026. So you can watch out for that. But no matter what, I want you to bring up your prompting skills. I think it's so valuable. And also, there are basic things you can do with agents. I'm going to show you just a really quick example because we only have half an hour. But I want you to just know that it's out there. It's not that terrifying for a non-programmer, and you should start to experiment. Also, I think it's really important to learn. One person was using Listen Labs. That's a great example of an AI moderated interview tool that does the interviewing for you in multi-languages. That's the scaling you can do. With AI-powered analysis, there are other specialized tools I'm going to talk about. And lastly, this notion of representing your target audience somehow, I could say this is what statistically really. So they call it synthetic users. I wonder if we should actually call it like personas come to life or representative simulations of your target audience, whatever it is. But synthetic users does sound a little creepy, but I actually have found that very useful for getting stakeholders interested in what might happen, for letting people ask one more question, bringing the data to life. And we definitely give people guardrails and let them know what it's good for and not. But I think this is something that you and your stakeholders and people like engineers and designers are going to be using more and more. So I just want to say that that's one of them. Let me just ask real quick, is there any one of these that you're most interested in? So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 here, and you can bang away and just tell me which ones you're thinking about here. Celine, synthetic users. Okay, good. Delighted that that's definitely something we also cover in class as well. Okay, lots of folks. Okay, well, I'll try to spend maybe just a few moments on that. Yeah, I actually do other sort of short, these 30-minute things on all these topics. So I do want you to just keep following along, keep joining. They're free. And the goal is to have everyone learn, right? And keep us progressing. Okay. Yeah, I think that's fair. So Akila is saying that like prompt engineering and AI-powered analysis might be a little better understood, maybe just because we've tried them more. Maybe the agentic things are still very new, but yeah, AI-moderated interviews is something not many people have tried, and same synthetic users. So I really encourage you to just experiment. And so let me just give you an example of our flow, so you get a feel for this. And just keep banging away with comments, questions. This is great. I really like it. So first of all, when we're setting up our studies, like I said, we try to have a synthetic user there at the start. I want to let you know they're very different, like price points and sizes and tools. And so some of the things we've used in the past, we're a subscriber of Vurvey, we're a subscriber of Coco, QOQO. Coco is actually really interesting because it's a little thing, it's not expensive, and it's designed to be sort of stuck into Miro or Figma or FigJam. So it's a great thing when you're doing a workshop, actually. Vurvey is more for like large scale consumer packaged good, is their sort of sweet spot. Really, all sorts of teams use them, but big global teams use it. For studying this past research, Maven is one of the go-to AI first ones. We actually at our company really like Coloop. I think it's a fantastic way to get sort of a really good solid grid of here are the strategic questions we've got and here's what everyone said. And it's a way to like click on a link and get to the quote directly in the transcript really fast and go back. So each of these have their own sort of sweet spot. And I actually want you to try a bunch of these in my class. Let's see, someone mentioned Listen Labs. And so, you know, typically when we're doing data collection, we are harnessing these tools like AI moderation because we're able to, you know, just collect at scale. So we've got 2 people on a project, we're interviewing 100 people. You know, so how do you do that? You scale with these tools. And so the interesting thing about AI moderation that's different, if you're really not sure what I'm talking about in comparison to unmoderated studies, the AI moderated ones, I might say, yeah, you know, I use ChatGPT for gardening, for example, to help me with which plants should go in full sun and which ones should be in shade, and like how deep I should dig the hole, and is there any nutrients I should put in with it. You know, I just don't know those things, and it sort of comes up. And if I said that, they'd say, oh, what did you find most valuable and what did you struggle with? You know, it might have a follow-on question. And it would be specific to, in gardening, what did you find it was most valuable for? So it listens to you and quickly asks follow-up questions that you don't necessarily craft word for word, but you say, if they mention this topic or if they mention struggling with something, I'm going to follow up with this kind of approach. So you can kind of guide it, but it directs. And there are a whole bunch of tools out there. Gosh, who am I not putting there? No, Wiser is one that we have been using in class. Userology, we have Listen Labs. Actually, all these. There are many others too. There are a lot of these tools. Listen Labs and Outside are 2 of the like biggest, most funded ones. Really, none of the huge groups like user testing have these tools right now. It's the little guys that are moving faster here. Let me just make sure I keep us going. So if we've collected those 100 interviews, what do we do now? And one thing is, I think actually prompting is really nice for getting some little summaries. And excuse me. Also, you can have a project within something like ChatGPT or Claude. So those are things often people can do now with typical sort of enterprise or $20 a month accounts. So even if you don't get to sort of agentic level, learn about projects because it's a really nice way to isolate data in one little window. Typically what we do is we have, for example, our statement of work. We have any like kickoff documents. We have all the raw data. We have all the test plans. And it's actually a really nice way to get the the large language model really focused on that one topic, and you can tell it, don't listen to anything else you've got in your memory, just focus on this project. And I think that's actually really valuable. Also, for specialized tools, like I said, we love Coloop. We use Listen Labs actually has a very pretty AI analysis. They actually give you a deck as well if you choose to take something like that on. Vurvey has a very sophisticated way to do highlight reels. So different groups have like different specialties. Also, the interesting thing in something like Vurvey is you can say, here's my set of interviews. Now make me a synthetic user that represents that. And basically, when you start asking that synthetic user questions, it factors in generally what humanity, responds like, and within that specialty of the world. And second, but it also factors in your data you collected. So essentially, you can have sort of a secret sauce built into your synthetic user. So it's not just sort of generic AI. I still think actually the generic ones are reasonably powerful, but obviously imperfect. But it's a way to get started. And lastly, when we're done and we share results, one of the really interesting things is more than 80% of our clients now ask for synthetic users as a byproduct of the work. So they really want it to come to life. They want people to ask questions of the data. They want their stakeholders to keep thinking. It makes sense too, right? You give someone like a deck, you present for an hour, inevitably one stakeholder there says, hey, did anyone ever mention this? Or what do you think would happen if we gave them this feature? And so people, it just makes sense. They would love to hear from something that represents that data to help them get an intuition. And the way I think of synthetic users is not, this is absolute fact, but in inspiration, it's a way to do fact finding. It's a way to expand your perspective. Trust me, if you create a synthetic user of a Gen Alpha and say that I want you to speak exactly in that lingo and be really into fashion and brands, and then start talking to about is kith a W or not, and if I sound like I'm speaking in tongues, don't worry. The key point is you are not your users, and it's really nice to have something that better represents that target audience. So what are the things you're not really thinking about that they might? And this is where it can give you inspiration and opportunity, I think. And it's very low, relatively low cost, and it's low risk because you could try ideas with synthetic users, and no one says, oh my God, I can't believe that Facebook was considering blankety blanking. So if I try it with synthetic users first, that doesn't get out in the public. And so you can try things also that you couldn't try with real humans, like say, what are the things you would never say to an interviewer, but I should know? Which of my questions are you most reticent to answer? What are things that are making you uncomfortable by my interview style? There are all these kind of things that you can ask of synthetic users. So really interesting opportunities, and also to test concepts and other things. So there you go. Let's see. Okay, there's tons of comments, so let me just keep going. And I'll actually just I'll do questions and comments. Let me just try and catch up. This is great. Let's see. Yeah, so someone said ask Rally for synthetic users. There are actually a lot of different groups. So I think there's someone from Ask Rally in the meeting, so noted. Also, Vurvey is well known for their synthetic users. If you're in a large org, Yabble, Y-A-B-B-L-E. There's also, of course, syntheticusers.com. Ask Rally is another, Delve AI. There's an increasing number of these. But I did want to say that Ask Rally has a really interesting way to sort of ask a question of a group. And they're all a little different. Synthetic users basically creates a synthetic moderator or UX expert, and actually interviews and spins up X number, however many you choose, users, and does a full interview with them, and then does an analysis of that. And you can either ask follow-up questions of the individuals or of the entire synthetic user team. So each one has a little different flavor, and Ask Rally, I think, is a nice one for sort of the smaller size business. I think it's more attainable than Yabble is very expensive, for example, but really, really impressive. Okay, cool. Different audiences. Okay, let me just take that off. Let me see what else we've got here. let's see. Someone's asking if they're, let me just see if I can follow along here. Let's see. A gold rush to capture the space. Yeah, what's a good framework? Okay, well, thank you. Akhil, what a thoughtful question. This is exactly why you make these things better, all of you. So what we try to do, first of all, you saw the first thing we did actually was to do our AI versus human study. So we literally took ourselves doing our research just without any AI tools. Then we had another person, so that was a PhD researcher. We had another PhD researcher who got access to things like ChatGPT and all those kind of things. But in both of those cases, the first two, we had humans interviewing humans. In a third condition, we had humans being interviewed by AI moderation. And so we wanted to see, does the, do the people who have ChatGPT and stuff actually go any faster, dig any deeper, find things that we don't just without it? Or are we missing something, right? And then when we had the AI moderation, the moral of the story is us PhD researchers, we thought we would pretty much crush the AI moderator, but we found that, the AI moderator was getting like 80 or 85% of what we were getting. That was a year ago. These things keep getting better. And so we just realized we had to take it seriously. So I think the framework I'd give you is often you want something where you know the discipline really well. Like we've done a lot of research on families traveling with small children internationally, for example, and what hotels need to know or what attractions need to know that they aren't typically providing. So let me just give you one example. And so that's something where I know what the humans are going to say. I know that data myself. And so then I could go and look at synthetic users and see what they pull up, or I can see what the AI moderation comes up with. And I can start to get a feeling, Akhil, of kind of gut feeling. What is it capturing well? What is it missing? And so what role should it play at the moment? So I think there's sort of this constant comparison that we're doing and really just sort of pushing the envelope, trying and experimenting and getting that sort of gut level feeling. The other thing I was going to say is that you've got, you're just asking if these specialized tools are anything more than a wrapper to something like GPT. And I think that actually, for example, like Ask Rally is a good example, Vurvey is, synthetic users, each of those have collected subconscious AI. These are just representative examples where they have collected their own data and had, there's publicly available data on humans, behavior, sort of mental models, things like that, where that's incorporated. So it takes out some of the traditional bias, like it might, synthetic user just from ChatGPT out of the box, we can decide, but might be more likely to act like someone in Silicon Valley who's probably male and probably, younger than me. And so, I think that the answer is yes. They are doing sort of customized things that make this more powerful than you can do out of the box. So there's a debate there, though, of whether you want to put these things to the test to see if they really are adding value for you. No, really thoughtful question. Yeah, so Lewis, thank you for your question. You're asking, have I tried synthetic users using a prototype and collecting data? No, and there's a reason for that. So there are two variants of this. Generally, these tools are capable of looking at screens, like pictures. So think of like packaging styles and making comments, or maybe even a web page. There is one tool from the team at Userform, starts with an S, I'll see if I can remember, that sort of does a sort of usability study of a website. It's sort of an initial thing, but there's very little where the simulations actually the simulated users actually interact with the tools themselves. So interestingly, you can almost test these things with the agents right now, right? So if you have the browser agent that actually does clicking and stuff, you can see where it goes, but that doesn't mean it's the way a human would do it. So answer, not yet, because these tools don't exist to my knowledge. If you know of something, please do shout it out, everyone. Yeah, Payal, this is actually, everyone asks this, and you are right to ask it. I wanted to say that I just think of these as inspiration, as possibilities. Usually they're directionally appropriate. And so I say, like in most of the cases. So I do want to say that I think it's a really good way to say, I wonder if there's going to be a there with like someone being interested in this particular product or concept and so on. So I think it's actually a nice way to start and just get a guess, really. But I guess I'm saying that it's not yet, I wouldn't call it statistically viable, or I'm going to bet, a $20 million project on exclusively synthetic users without testing humans. Even the folks at Synthetic Users, one of the founders was in our class last cohort, and he was like, yeah, what we do is we think of this as a good way to get started before you work with humans. So you might know what to ask, you might know, you might anticipate what they're going to say and be better prepared and make, sort of jump further forward with your human research. So, think of it that way, as a brand new tool that we can use and we're learning how to use. And that gives you new opportunities for investigating very quickly, relatively low cost, to give you sort of, let me just call it directional knowledge for now. I'm trying to be gentle. The interesting thing is, interesting question here is, what if these things keep getting better and better, which they will, and what if this gets to be an excellent predictor of humans? Then that's going to be pretty interesting, right? So anyway, there you go. Let's see. Oh, Ricardo, yeah, these things are always recorded, and we just send it out in an email like tomorrow with things like slides. Cool. Let's see here. Yeah, so this is actually a good point, Mariana. Thank you. So historically, there's been groups that sort of specialize in AI moderation or data collection, groups that specialize in data capture and analysis, like sort of repositories, and then synthetic users. But I want to say that sort of distinction is just getting blurred as fast as people can do it. So you're exactly right that Maze and Great Question are both offering AI moderation coming up. So we're just going to see these changes taking place. I think that actually, and you should see, actually, there is an interview with the folks at Maze that just came out with us, who may have actually, it's one of them, or Great Question. We just preceded by a week their launch, actually. Yeah, I hope you enjoy it. And they're a very thoughtful team. It was really nice to meet the founder. Cool. Kathy, you're very welcome. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're talking about. So this is one of the team at Ask Rally, and right. So you have calibrated panels, right? So I think one of the interesting things here, you can think of it as, the first step is just to launch these things and try them, and the second is to start to capture your specialized data for what you need the most, and then have something represent that to bring it to life. So interesting. Cool. I think that's everything I needed to say. Let's see, if you wanted to stick around, I can show you just a little bit more, but let me just say that I've got some other things. If you're like still learning some of this stuff, you can just go to maven.com and my name. You can just Google me too, and you'll find the stuff. Or sorry, whatever you do, Perplexity me. That was showing my age here. But I want to say there's other free stuff, but obviously I would love for you to be in my class. We actually have a big, or not a huge group, but I have a TA as well, so we can cover it. But we have a nice sized group in our class. I think it's actually has been popular. Please look at the reviews. I think they're representative of how we try to let you sort of open your eyes to what's possible and to, just explore these new tools so you get a feeling for yourself. And ultimately, what I want you to do is, I felt terrified. I felt insecure about my job, all these things. And I think you might find that ultimately we're going to really change the way we do our work, but we're going to become more of like an orchestrator of the tools. And think of yourself as an orchestra leader. You decide what's going to happen and what the tools are. You decide what good performance is, and you're the one sort of bringing that all together. So I think that's actually an interesting model for where we're headed as research teams. But I think it's just, I really encourage everyone just to keep trying, being skeptical, which is totally reasonable and rational, and curious. So just trying that right balance. If anyone wants to stick around, I can show you one more little thing about agents as well. But let's see if I just want to see if you all just had to go at a half hour. Oh, yeah, we got a bunch of people still on. Okay, cool. Well, let me go ahead and keep going. This is really what I wanted to show you in terms of the course. And here, I'll just let go of this. And what I wanted to do is show you just a little bit of Claude code and what's possible. And just, I wanted to let you know that these new tools, so there's Gemini CLI, which is, I always forget that's like, anyway, it's like, in a terminal, like typing. So, does anyone remember what CLI stands for? Anyway, it's just that you're typing in chat, command line interface. Yes, I had it and it was gone. Josephine, thank you so much. So there's that for Gemini. There's that for Codex now in Google Land, and I'm going to happen to show you the one in Anthropic that's actually really popular, which is called Claude Code. But I wanted to let you know that, here, I can actually be a little more human here just for a sec. Let's see if I hit the right button. Yeah, there I am. So I wanted to let you know that even though it's called Claude Code, think of it as Claude Local. I think there was a podcast that there's a guy named Lenny who does things for product managers. He has a popular podcast for those kind of folks, and he actually coined this. It wasn't my idea, but it was a really good way to say it. That it really works with files on your hard drive, and then can manipulate them and do really interesting things with agents and commands and so on. So there's a whole nother layer of learning with these things, but you can start kind of out of the box pretty easily, and I'm going to show you that right now. But I wanted to let you know that there are pieces to the puzzle. It just increases what you're learning. I've learned so much from people on YouTube, actually. So I'm not saying you have to always do courses like mine, but I wanted to say that they are possible. And so here, let me just stop talking and show you. Okay, cool. So let me just first, I'm using a tool called Cursor. And this is, again, a programming. They call it an IDE. What is that? Integrated Development Environment. I think I actually got that one right, Josephine. Let's see. Oh, correct me if I'm wrong. But moral of the story, it's not complicated. It's just that you have somewhere where you can look at files, you can list the files that you've got. Somewhere you can actually have a terminal. So the terminal is just like it's like if you were using Linux. It's like the original thing there. And I've actually started up Claude in this case, and I'm using that from the terminal. But it's smart enough to know what folder we're in and then work with it. So there is a specialized tool within this tool called Cursor for programming. Claude Code is great at programming, but I find that you can barely spell programming, and I find it really useful. So I wanted to just let you know that. Here, okay, this one actually is in Dutch, or sorry, German. So let me just show you an example here of a file real quick that we have in our set. So I've got a bunch of interviews. This is about using AI for personal use. And so I've just got a series of interviews here in text files. And what I'm going to do is just ask Claude to help me out with these things. And it may be easier. This is probably microscopic in terms of the size. So let me go ahead and what I'm going to do is just, I actually have, well, here, let me see. If I hit plus, what happens? That's not bad. Okay, it doesn't look super pretty, but you'll get the idea here. I'm just going to change my window widths here. I have some both interview transcripts, and I also have some, I think these are CSV files, which is different. I'm just going to focus on the just a handful of interviews here. So, and the other thing I want to show you is there are all these little tools that can make you go so much faster. So I use a thing here. Let's see if I have it up, actually. Here, let me just do this. Yeah, I know that some of you have lockdown computers because you work at a bank or healthcare or other things like that. But I wanted to say that there are great new tools. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so I have this thing called WhisperFlow, and I just wanted to show you. So there is this capability in your accessibility in a Mac, for example, but it just does it better. Hey, so I just wanted to say hi and show people how Whisper works. Okay, so I can do that so much faster than typing. So what I find is it's really fun to go back and forth with an LLM and give that a whirl. So let me just, I'm going to say that, And I'll show you what I can do here, just real quick. Okay, let's give this a whirl. And I haven't actually tried this on this particular data set. This is gonna be fun. Hey Claude, I have in my raw data folder a set of text files. They end in txt and they're all numbered. Some of them are English, some of them are German. What I'd like you to do is to spin up 4 agents to give me a summary of each interview, and then have one final analyst go ahead and give me a summary of all of those. I want particularly to know about what are the desired features for a personalized AI assistant that people have mentioned in the interview. Put all of those things in the analysis folder. Okay. So I just kind of like chatted that out, right? So that was faster than if I was typing. And so, okay, so it's doing some, so bash is just, it's doing like, you know, file things here. And you can actually see if I go Control O, it starts to say what some of its thinking is. I'll look in the raw data folder for things. And I found 13 interviews, right? 10 in English, 3 in German. And so it's chugging away, right? So, you know, this was meant to be a quick demo for us to talk about because it's kind of fun. Definitely, you know, we are more thoughtful in the way we do things for our clients, and to trust me. But I wanted to show you the couple things. So one is I've got 4 interview analyzers working at the same time here. So that you can't do that in just ordinary Claude or ordinary ChatGPT. And so this, and actually I just said at random 4, I probably could have said 12. And the really interesting thing is that we can just get more done faster, right? And really, I did not need to know how to code these things, and it just kind of took off. The other thing is I have this in a specific folder. So what I've done is I've got a project where I would have like my project goals, and I'd have my interview guide. You know, I had we were looking in the raw data folder. The analysis folder is open. So yeah, it's asking, do I want to do things? And in general, I'm just going to say yes, because we're trying to keep ourselves moving here. Okay, so we'll see if it actually gave us a summary. Oh, a summary of group 1, group 2. Okay, so I guess what it's doing actually is it's summarizing 1 through 3, 4 through 6, and so on. We'll see. And also you can see it just plowed through multilingual things just fine. So it's happy to do that. The other thing I could have done to be more thoughtful is to say, you know, give me verbatim quotes, things like that. In my prompting class, I help you with how to get these things out of the LLM, so it's not making things up. But I just wanted to show you that the power of just learning a little bit of these command line interface tools, because they just are giving you these agentic opportunities that you don't have otherwise. And that combined with just being able to chat with the tool is actually really nice. And there's all these little tools, like I can have it have thinking on or off. You can see in the lower right, there are all these little bits that are interesting that you don't get as a normal user just on the web. So anyway, I wanted you to have a sense of what's possible. So I'm going to let this chug away, and maybe I can ask for some, just see what people are asking here. Let's see, Leah, just while this is chugging away, let's talk about you. So, okay, I'm glad you found this valuable. Yeah, what are the biggest differences in the use of synthetic users between B2C and B2B? Yeah, oh, interesting. You're working with chemical engineers in a manufacturing setting. We're actually doing a study of scientists who include chemists and people like chemical engineers. Maybe we can trade participants. Yeah, so actually we find that these can be very powerful, even for, especially for hard to reach people. So think about maybe security analysts who like just are really hard to or like a emergency room nurse. Or in this case, you've got chemical engineers that are like on the plant doing their stuff. The other example here I've got for you is, let's say you're doing B2B sales. And so you typically, if you've got a SaaS product, some digital product, Probably there's going to be the person who really wants the software. There's going to be a vendor management person. There's going to be a security team checkout. There's going to be other people on compliance. There might be other people on just like onboarding teams. And all of those stakeholders you don't typically get to talk to, but they influence whether you get the sale or not. And so my point is that these are really nice examples of where you can go ahead and spin up different specialists to try to get some input where you would have got none otherwise. So we have found that actually it's surprisingly good at very specific kind of folks. Partly because people just share on the internet, and the folks at Ask Rally know this, that you could have very specialized chemical engineers in a certain setting with a certain background and get reasonably good insights into sort of those synthetic users. So don't underestimate the ability to capture rarely interviewed kind of people. The other thing I wanted to mention, that's for B2B, but it works for B2C too, that no matter what, even if you're like, we work with Mars and they're huge, for example, they never get time to test every market, every niche. And this is where synthetic users can really shine, right? So if we had extreme users, like people who love to do ice climbing, or we had people who, are master chefs, we typically wouldn't just, interview a set of master chefs. We wouldn't have time. But this is a way to get to those sort of edge cases and get a little bit of insight or possibility from those. So I actually think this is a really nice question. Thank you. Let's see. Okay, Mike says hi. Thank you from the team at Ask Rally. We're likely to have them as part of our things you can try in our class. So you're welcome to check that out. Let's see, Paris Beach. Okay, I'm not sure the reference here, but okay, it's a similar one to maybe the Whisper Flow. Very cool. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. How does it configure the 4 agents differently? We asked it to do the same thing. So there's a couple pieces here. I got it to just spin these up without any instructions. But here, let me just take this off the screen and I can show you, if you want to do this more seriously, what I do is I hit slash, so there's things called slash commands, and I go agents, and then it says manage your agent configuration, and I'm going to do that. And so now I can basically like start up a new agent, or like I want a UX research agent, for example, and I might want an accessibility agent and other ones. So in our class, we'll actually talk about what ones you might want, how specialized should they be, how many should you have, things like that. And actually both Anthropic and OpenAI have good. So agents is something I think I can only do really easily in Claude Code. That's why I love this. But I wanted to let you know that this is a possibility. So anyway, I'm going to skip actually doing this right now, but I want to let you know that you could make a specialized agent and then specifically call it out. Cool. And actually, let's just do a little like, what did we find over here? And I know this data well, so I'll tell you if I think it's accurate or not. Okay, so interview 1 was a designer who uses AI. Okay, it's a little bit annoying that it's not wrapping. Let me just see if I can remember. Oh, wait, I think it's down here, actually. So close. Let's just let it go. We need to go quick. There's an easy way to make it wrap the text. I normally have it set on my other computer. I'm just not using it right now. Appearance, I think it's near the bottom. Okay, it doesn't matter. Options, thank you for saving me. See, this is the great thing about working with lots of people who learn so much. Okay, nailed it. Awesome, thank you, Richard. Notice I trusted you right away and didn't even think to look. So you can see the desired features this person has, and it looks like interview 2 has these ones. Let's see, so wow, physical task automation, that's impressive. Let's see, translation, concept explanation. Okay, that's something that I hear a fair bit. Let's see, for this person, we've got just writing, decision support. Yeah, emotional things, that's actually very common that people want to use it in that kind of format. So here, I think that we didn't get an overall summary. So hey Claude, can you give me an overall summary based on the group summaries that we have now in our analysis folder? I want a single one, and I want you to give me specific quotes to represent the 3 most important findings in terms of what people wanted with their desired features with AI that helps them in their everyday life. Okay, so you can see how fast you can go with this kind of, no, these are terrible prompts. I know I can be more thoughtful, but I just wanted to let you know that you can kind of get the thing rolling really quickly. That's why I like doing this. It's actually nice in our presentations too. So yeah, just to be clear and answer this, they were essentially identical, but you can actually prescribe what exactly you want from this thing. I don't know if you saw, one of the fun things is it always gives you like a verb. So in this case, it says it's whisking. And sometimes it's like, you know, pontificating or whatever, and it's just being silly. Kind of a nice little touch. Yeah, for edge users, where does the knowledge come from? Well, you know, you can actually ask for sources. So don't trust me. Go ahead and ask it, you know, where it's getting its data from. You know, part of that is statistically in the model that you really wouldn't know the source. You don't want it just making up sources. But in general, think about all these, just as a representative example, think of like, so I know it's sort of old school, but like Facebook groups where people might chat. So, and also, excuse me, go to Reddit and take a look. So for example, there are lots of people who are UX researchers who are like, I'm so frustrated with these AI tools, or people who want to program their, I don't know, DJI, whatever flying photography thing they're using. And so my point is there's like super specialized boards. And so lots of that kind of thing, you can draw it from those kind of things. And also from like, so basically these specialized groups all over the internet. There's Discord, there's that, there's, in the old days, there's like email lists and stuff like that. So you'd be surprised at how many possibilities there are there. That are beyond what you and I might look at right now. Yeah, so there's a couple things. So I'm presenting using a thing called Ecamm. I actually have 2 computers going. Ecamm is presenting me and the screen. But the tool I'm working in right now is called Cursor, and it's one of the most famous sort of AI coding tools. It actually, there's a free version. I'm using the free one and it works just fine. And what I've done is use my subscription to Claude, and so that's just on the right, and it's like showing what it's up to. And I can actually, here, let's just see how we're doing. Whoa, that's a pretty hard to read kind of thing. Let me give this a little bit more room. Okay, so it looks like it's getting the final synthesis done. It's got an executive summary. Okay, so it started to give us a report. Oh yeah, there's a final synthesis report over here as well. But you can see it's actually writing things into my hard drive. Right, that's the interesting piece here. And you can see this is like super detailed. We can of course tune it, and you know that if I was a better prompter, I'd say, here is a representative example of what I want. Here is the output sections I want. Here are the kinds of quotes I want. So you know what I mean? You can guide it to do much better things. This is like totally out of the box. I have no idea what it's going to tell me. It's interesting that it's got direct quotes and it's got the translation to English here. So personalization was definitely a big hit. I know this data well. Let's see, intelligent discretion. I don't know if I would have said that. Let's see. Oh yeah, okay. So making decisions without oversight. So this is more autonomy actually, really. So you want to know that it can just handle things for me, and when I want it to do that and when I don't. So they reported moderate trust, which is typical. So they want time savings, but they have a trust barrier, right? How do you build trust? Totally fair. That sounds right on. This personalization, everyone wants to know things like, hey, I personally always have to go pick up my daughter at gymnastics. You know, if the weather's bad, remind me to leave early, like stuff like that. So you want sort of it to know, I would never eat, I don't know. So I'm not a big fan of onions. So like, hey, don't give me a recipe with onions in it, that kind of thing. So no offense to the onion lovers out there, my personal preference. And adaptive learning, so I don't actually have to train it. Okay, so these are very reasonable kind of things. So you saw getting some pretty good stuff out of something when you just have like a minute or two. And so cool. So yeah, to answer right your question, this is actually using Claude in the terminal window. Okay, so I could have just actually let me just show you. There is actually terminal which comes with your computer and it's waiting for you. So I have Claude. So here, let me just escape this for real quick. Exit. Okay, so here, let me just do old school for you here. And I know it's really, really tiny font. One sec. Okay. Okay, so this is what the terminal is, right? So it's just in it, so it literally says terminal, and each, like your Mac, your Windows One, Linux, they all have them. And so if I go ls, that means list, and I can do ls-l. So these are like Unix commands, like you're listing them, and these are the I don't know, the permissions and the size and stuff like that. And so you kind of have to know Linux, Unix basic commands like bash shell to be useful here just on your own. But all I have to know is clear, which is really handy. And then I have installed Claude, and the way I did it, it was one line, and I got it from, I actually installed it about 20 minutes before this meeting. This is a slower computer. So, oops, I'm so sorry. I've got Coach's thing over top of this. So I just typed in Claude, and then I get here, and now I can kind of do whatever I want. So I can say, hey, give me the top things to think about when I'm making a prompt for UX research analysis. Okay, so it's just the normal Claude essentially, plus the ability to access your files and to write files. Okay, cool. So I'll just let it chug away there. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, tools to transcribe interviews. Yes, I do have an answer for you here, Gabriella. So a couple things. So sometimes you've got your Zoom or other tools like that, and they do it for you. But actually what I do is I get Claude Code to help me connect to OpenAI has a tool called Whisper, which is spelled like the normal word whisper, not like WhisperFlow. And it's known as one of the very best transcription tools. So what we do is we send our files to our paid, so we have an enterprise account, just be super clear, of an enterprise account of OpenAI, ChatGPT, and so that means that our data is never used for training, or that's the agreement. I guess I'll never know for sure, but basically it's just sends up the MP3s, so audio, and what comes back is the transcription. And so I find that super useful. Oh, fascinating that there's a phone call. I don't think I really want that right now. Okay. So I did want to say that that's what we use actually and really like it. We also use, note that many of the data repository tools, so Maven or they have a really good one in Coloop. So there are actually several of the data repository tools do that as well. So we might be a little bit of an anomaly, like kind of doing it ourselves, but we can do it both ways. We've also found that for specialized groups, like we have a lot of scientific information in ours, it's pretty good at scientific or medical information as well. Cool. Let's see. Yeah, well, Jody, think of it as an exploration to what's possible. I know it's true. We happen to have tools that are, have AI in them, but it's more knowing what's coming and what's possible so that you can be prepared. This is exactly it. I want all of you to, we have this huge transition to make, all of us, but especially in UX research, because there's such these new possibilities. So I want you to be able to evaluate these things, to know what you should be using in your team and your organization. And I also want you to know, like, should I trust this thing? How do I learn if it's any good or not? So I agree that it may be another course, but I think it's worth learning this stuff, not just for UX researchers, but for like product people. It's so much easier to do research, designers, engineers. So you don't have, and we actually have like founders who are in our class, so stuff like that. So don't hesitate. Yeah, how do you output and save the reports? So actually they're on my hard drive. So here, let me just show you, James, real quick. So here, let's just get it. So this is the scary terminal. So let's go less scary. You're familiar. Let me see here. Oh, actually, hold on. You know what? I screwed up and stopped sharing my screen here. One sec. I'll tell you what, actually, this might be a good time to pause. I can fix this, but it takes a little time. It's one more. There's so many different options in this tool. Sorry, what I did is I closed someone's comment and I actually closed my view as well. Let's see here. I need to have that. Okay, I'm back. Good. Okay, so this is just my normal Finder. And you can see in Documents, I have a folder called Demo that I created. And this is, I don't know if you, I know this is small. It's hard for me to make it zoomed in, unfortunately. But it says Project Goals, Interview Guide, Raw Data Analysis. That's exactly the folder structure we had in the project. And then if I go into Analysis, then I've got these things that are actually text files themselves. So the final synthesis that you saw, I'm just double clicking on it. And I think it's opening like TextEdit, which is like, free processing tool, but there it is. And I could have asked for it in Markdown language, or I could have said, make it copy paste into a Google Doc. So I've got the nice formatting, stuff like that. So anyway, it's on your hard drive. So actually it's not sort of lost in the ether. It's very practical that way. Excellent question. Let me see here. Oop, gotta get my mouse on the right computer. Okay. And yeah, you know what? We've been here for an hour, so I think I better go. But thank you all so much for joining me. Just a last final thing here to let you know, and thank you all for sticking around till the very end. I appreciate your stick-to-itiveness. Keep being curious. Keep being skeptical about these tools. Figure out what works for you and your team, and take your time, but keep exploring because you don't want to be left behind. So I so appreciate your time, and yeah, catch me on LinkedIn. You can just Google me, and if you have any other questions. And I hope you'll actually join me coming up in November here. And I'm not exactly sure when the course is going to be run again next year because I do need to do other things. So if you want to grab a slot, I don't mean to be FOMO, but it's just practically, I'm not exactly sure when it's coming up next. There it is. So this is it. I just want to make sure it's a hands-on course. It really is showing you and letting you try and do homework with the very latest tools. So we give you logins to all these things and you can understand how you can really harness them. We are a crazy busy team right now because we know how to do these tools. So I really encourage you to join me and follow along in this adventure. So hey, Gabrielle, Richard, Isaac, Leah, Jasmine, Ryan, you are very welcome. Gabriella, of course. Let's see. Yeah, actually, Gabriella had one last question. We are actually doing the transcriptions through MP3. I just told Claude, hey, change this from MP4 to an MP3. And it does it. It did them for like all of them. So it's pretty amazing that way. Okay, cool. So clearly there are other things to learn. Be skeptical, be curious, and go out there and get them. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.